Some of you requested that I film a stand-up set while we're in isolation, so live and in what little living color remains in my hair, here I am. Now this will be the first stand-up set I've ever performed where I don't know if I make you guys laugh, so just drop a line in the comments or send me a carrier pigeon if I do manage to make you smile. Carrier pigeon's probably the way to go with the way shipping is right now. But yeah, this is not going to be a set about quarantine, although I do have to touch on it. Mostly to explain to posterity why I am sitting on the floor of my bathroom talking to myself. Again. I put on makeup for this, which I've only done twice since isolation began, so if my eyeball starts twitching, that's just because it's upset that it had to get dressed up. And dressing up is hard these days. Less because of motivation and more because difficulty breathing is a symptom of COVID-19. So every time I do get dressed up, it's like, oh my god, is this respiratory distress or is my body just rejecting my bra? But yeah, the quarantine has definitely cemented my self-diagnosis of touch starvation. For those of you who don't know, touch starvation means if I don't get physical contact, I start to die inside. And even if the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention did allow hugging, I'm quarantined with my sister, who would rather parse the intricacies of the Treaty of Versailles than give me a hug. She's just not a hugger, and that is usually fine. The last time my touch starvation was this bad was when I went to go visit her in England. She was studying abroad because somebody had to be the pride and joy of the family, and it wasn't going to be the stand-up comedian. So between my flight from America to England, it had been 2 days, 36 hours, and 14 minutes since my last hug, not that I was counting. And the first thing that we were supposed to do when I landed was go on a pub crawl. So I've landed in a brand new country, no one's hugged me in days, and we're going clubbing. So, we're just out, dancing around some Florida-themed pub, and this British guy I do not know drags his hand along the exposed small of my back, like a douchebag, and I was so touch-starved, I looked after him like, oh my god, when are we getting married? And if that's how I reacted to a drive-by, you can only imagine what it was like the next day, when my sister's Argentinian friends gave me European face kisses. But don't go thinking I'm all refined just because I have left the country. I am still a hick at heart. Some of you know that I grew up in the middle of nowhere because you grew up in the middle of nowhere with me, but for everybody else, a primer. I lived 12 miles away from my high school, there was no internet, and my best friend was a hay bale. That is not a southern insult. My best friend was the bale of hay that my grandfather kept to feed the horse through the winter. Granted, I was also 2 years old, and that's just life before your parents give you a sibling. And as I have mentioned, I have a sister now. I think she would prefer if I still hung out with a hay bale. But yeah, we lived on a half-mile gravel driveway, which effectively made me and my sister princesses trapped in a tower. If the tower was a normal house, the moat was gravel, and everything was guarded by a big orange Kubota. For you city slickers, a Kubota is a tractor that you use to plow the snow off your own driveway. I wish I was joking. So, being raised where I was raised, my family suffers from what I call late-onset suburbia, meaning that being among civilization is just difficult for us. And so that is all the background you need for the story I want to tell you about how late-onset suburbia contributed to my overreaction of seeing the ice cream truck for the first time. If anyone wants to take a guess about how old I was when I first saw the ice cream truck, you're wrong, because I was 20. So, yeah, at the time I first saw the ice cream truck, my father had relocated to town, which blew my mind because we suddenly had cell reception and paved roads. And I was home from college at the time, just soaking my feet in the bathtub because I'm unemployed and boring. And it is important that you note that I was fully clothed, just soaking my feet for the duration of this story. So there I am, soaking my feet like a normal person. And I hear the strains of a tinny rendition of Doggy in the Window being slowly murdered. I have waited my whole life for this moment. So I leap out of the bathtub, I grab money from the foyer, and I chase the ice cream truck down the street, barefoot, like a sane person. And the ice cream truck stops a couple houses down, and I get in line behind a bunch of already sticky 6-year-olds. And the ice cream truck guy has his little kid voice on, and he's just generally making their days. And when I approach the window, he looks me up and down and goes, "What would you like, little one?" And so I fork over my cash and go, "SpongeBob Pop, please," like an adult. And if you want to hear another story about things that happened way later than they should have, the last business to close in my college town was the sex toy store. So don't ever let anybody tell you that vibrators are not essential.